because I love their faces.
Yes.
Yeah, all the way.
How do we?
Linda and Casey, come on camera. I want to see your beautiful faces.
And Mara.
Oh, that's why she's in the car.
Oh, there she is.
But look how cool she looks in the car. I mean, come on.
She always looks cool.
She really does.
All right, so it's 7:02. And
Linda, are you at the beach?
this is what I love. Everybody's, I love this. Coming for the Monday night reading. So welcome to Monday night readings, everybody. This is we're going to take a hiatus after today for 2 months just to let everybody have a summer. And then we'll be back in September with new Monday night readings. But this is a doozy. I'm so thrilled about the lineup we have tonight. But first I want to just share just a little bit about Monday night readings. The idea for it came to me because back when I was a playwright, Monday night readings were the coolest thing you could get to do if you were a playwright at the Playwright Center. So that's why they're on Monday nights, just so we're clear about that. But really it's because I noticed that a lot of nonfiction authors didn't have the same opportunities to read from their books that fiction authors do. And it's very different than, say, promoting a book, getting on a webinar, doing a podcast, and being interviewed. Although we do have an interview component here, it's about reading an excerpt from your book. It's a very different experience. And so I really wanted to give the authors who have either come through my workshop or come through my editing retreat an opportunity to show their hard work. So these are the people who I have selected to read and specifically said, this is what I'd like for you to read, because this is the work that they did work so hard on. So it's important for me to show this to our up and coming students who have books coming out, what can happen when you put in the work. So I want to just share, we will end at 8 o'clock. Although we start a couple of minutes late, we like to end on time, respectful of everybody's evening. And so please stay and support all of the authors. If you're here to see one author, we ask that you'll stay for the duration. I'll have a little chat with each author. They'll read an excerpt from their book, and then we'll share some feedback in the chat. It's one rule I have in workshop and at retreat that applies to everybody here. Is in workshop, we are a safe space for authors to develop their ideas, to write their manuscripts and edit their manuscripts. So we observe this golden rule: no criticism, constructive or otherwise, no matter how helpful you think you're being, from anyone except moi. So share your positive feedback with authors in the chat. Authors love specifics. If there's a line that resonates with you, put it in the chat. If it reminds you of something, put it in the chat. If you're excited about some aspect of what you hear, put it in the chat. Okay? And throughout this Monday night, Laura will be sharing information about the authors, including where you can learn more about them and order their books. Okay? So Laura, I'm going to have you, and of course, Laura Stone, our Dean of Students. Yay, Laura. Who's just steps below me. Couldn't be more excited. Laura, who are we starting off with tonight?
We are starting off with the fabulous Joey. And if you would allow me to read his fabulous bio to our darling Joey Masiuk. And he wanted to make sure that we all know that it's Masiuk, not Masiuk. And it's not Joseph, that is his father. So Joe, known to his friends as Joey, or especially to the top three crew as Joey, was offered admission and a full scholarship to the University of Pennsylvania, from which he graduated cum laude, well done, in 1973 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in literature. The first person from either side of his family to have gone to college. Thereafter, he attended law school. After that, he returned to Philadelphia, where he found work for the federal government, first with the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and later as an assistant United States attorney with the Department of Justice. Not content to spend his entire career as a government lawyer, Joey founded the law firm of Flood and Masiuk with his wife in 1986, first as a general practice civil firm, and for the past 20 years, a specialist in estate planning, where he has worked for the past 35 years with his wife of 46 years today. Congratulations on your anniversary, Joey, June 7th. So looking for one more life chapter after lawyering and finally indulging his love for speaking and writing, Joey became a student at Heroic Public Speaking and Top 3 Book Workshop. But he didn't feel that he had a big idea which was worth sharing until 5 years ago when on his birthday, May 22nd, 2016, his estranged 35-year-old son, Nick, asked if he could come home to get clean from an addiction to heroin. Joey's book, the working title for which is Safe Space, is a chronicle of Nick's recovery from that addiction and his dad's journey of redefining for himself what the term dad means. When Nick came home to get clean, Joey was without a clue as to what to do to help his son. This book is a story of Joey's sometimes misdirected, but always well-intentioned efforts, as well as his reflections about his own life as a son, a parent, and a recovering alcoholic himself. And above all, it was written to offer hope to parents of addicted adult children that a second season at home just might be the last thing standing between their kid and death. And I'll put a way to connect with Joey in the chat. Over to you.
Joey, I'm so excited to share this with you. So you already shared the tentative title, Safe Space.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to make note of how you can get in touch with Joey so you can learn about when his book does become available. He's still working on it. So as we do in workshop, Joey, who is your reader?
My reader is or are parents who sit at home wondering whether to let their adult addicted children in. I might add, children that want to get clean.
Okay.
And the big idea is, again, that your own home may be the last remaining safe space for your adult addict child to recover and save their own lives.
And what is your promise to your reader?
My promise is that if you provide your adult addict child the time and space to recover, you're going to see your kid, yourself, and addiction in ways that weren't possible before.
All right. And so let's set up the excerpt. Tell us what we were about to hear.
Well, a little bit of preface. As I've been writing this book, I've had this ongoing discussion with my son, who's really the subject of it, as to whether or not we can use his name or even my name. So AJ, out of respect for that whole process, has suggested that I read about addiction. And that's what you're going to hear about. Addiction, my own feelings about it, my own knowledge of it, my own reactions to it.
Okay, Joey, so you go ahead and read, and then after that, we're going to do just a little bit of debrief. I want to remind everybody that authors love positive feedback. Please put it in the chat if you feel inspired. Take it away, Joey.
Have you ever just sat and watched a baby learning to walk? They try, they fall, they cry, they try again, they stand, they wobble. They finally take that one important first step forward, which after more trying and failing leads to another and another, until they're off and running to somewhere, everywhere, and nowhere. And that's how we learn. We try, we fail, and we try again. And during all that trying and failing, we somehow gain experience of what we did wrong, what to do to correct it, and so on. And we move through life that way, trying, failing, trying again, all the while experiencing the feeling of failure and intuitively grasping what needs to be done so that we won't fall again. With addiction, one is caught in a loop of needing the substance or thing or experience. According to the National Institutes of Health publication on drug addiction, heroin has the capacity to hijack and actually rewire the pleasure centers of the brain where dopamine is produced, gradually substituting itself as the sole giver of pleasure. Your time is caught up in needing and getting and needing and getting. You ingest the substance and you're well for a while. While you are well, your mind turns to what you need to do to get the next hit or drink or whatever. As it has been explained to me with heroin, the pull is so strong that your need to do things to get money to get the drug causes you to commit crime, to shoplift, to steal from your parents and loved ones, and sell anything you have, including yourself. And as you are doing these things to assure yourself another hit, you again feel a drumbeat inside of you. It's soft at first, but it becomes harder and louder, a constant, unremitting, increasing crescendo, which will end with the next hit. And so the loop goes over and over and over again. Where is there time in all that needing and getting and seeking and needing and getting for anything else? Like gathering skills, like talking to people, like developing relationships, like doing all those things that people do to live and grow in the world. And all the while, an important thing is happening. Time is passing. Life is going by. So with the time of an addict being consumed with needing and getting and stealing and buying and selling and using and needing some more, where is there time to learn, to grow, to try new things, to think new things, to mature? Not much. There is something else that is stolen from an addict in addition to time and experience. It's called wanna. I learned this word years ago while watching the Pennsylvania Farm Show on cable. One of the featured events every year is the horse pull. In the horse pull, teams of two horses compete with each other to determine which team can pull the greatest amount of weight the longest distance. These horses are bred specifically to pull weights. They are your Belgians, your Percherons, and your Clydesdales. There was this farmer from someplace out in rural Pennsylvania who had two smallish horses. They were at the bottom of their weight class. And time after time, year after year, they proved themselves to be the champion team from across the Commonwealth. Their owner, an old, no-nonsense farmer, was being interviewed after the event. As he was asked why his horses won every year despite being the smallest horses in their weight class, his answer said it all. Must be that my horses have more wanna than the others. Wanna. That inexplicable something that drives the living engine. That force that makes horses pull, babies walk, students learn, and things happen. In addition to time and experience, addiction steals wanna. An addict has no desire to do anything else other than to get that feeling of high and return to it again and again. He has no wanna to try new things, to experience life, or to grow. Here's what I know firsthand, and here's what I've seen. I can't remember when I took my first drink. I don't recall it ever having been a choice, but I do know that whenever I began my drinking career, I did not say to myself, I'm going to start this behavior and I'm going to see where it takes me. And I know that it'll last at least 30 years and cause embarrassment, heartache, missed opportunities, and losses of income, relationships, and practically everything else in this life that matters. No. It was probably more like wanting to fit into a group when I was a kid. And then it became, boy, is this giving me a break from whatever bothers me? To, God, where has this magic elixir been that makes me feel like I've solved my social anxiety, fear, and failure to fit in? To, I'm in love with this stuff. How I pity the people who don't know that there's something that will take them someplace where they want to be on a daily basis. To, God, I don't want to feel like this another day. To, I can't stop. The reason that addiction as a disease has gotten so much bad press is that to the outside observer, there looks like there's an element of choice or volition or decision in taking that first drink or that first hit, or choosing to drink or use or not on any given day. And of course, because one chose to start it, and one can choose to stop it. And that is where the knowledge on the part of the non-addict observer is flawed. Because there was an element of choice in most of the people who ended up addicted doesn't mean that one can just as easily choose to stop just like that. I've heard stories of people losing everything that one can lose: health, family, profession, bank account, reputation, and still not be able to stop. The saddest story I ever heard was from a man who just could not stop drinking. Drinking cost him just about everything: his marriage, his job, his kids, and even the liver he'd been born with. Through many tears of guilt, he told me his story. I'm a liver transplant recipient, and I just cannot stop myself from drinking, even though I know that someone had to die so that I could have this liver. My blood tests show that I'm burning through this donated liver too, and I just cannot stop. For myself, I remember that more than one time I woke up so hungover and sick from drinking the night before that I swore to myself on all that was holy that I'd had my last drink, that I would never put myself through that hell again. Imagine my surprise when I found out at the end of the day that my car had a mind of its own. It found itself with me in it in the parking lot of my favorite saloon, where I, sitting at the bar with another drink in front of me, wondered how I got there and cursed myself for not keeping my pledge. For myself and for other recovering people who have spent time in programs such as AA, this is not an unfamiliar story. There are tons of anecdotal evidence available which suggests that regardless of how much one wants to live clean and sober, the fact of wanting it by itself doesn't always make it so. You could look at my situation and say that at the end of the day, I had a choice, and I used my freedom of choice to go to the bar, to repeat the same behavior. But to me, it didn't feel like a choice. It didn't feel like an act of volition. It certainly didn't feel like freedom. And as strange as this may sound, I myself was surprised that I ended up in that bar. Yes, I remember the promise I had made to myself that very morning, but there wasn't time for me to figure it all out. There was time only to order that next drink. That's addiction. Being moved by unseen hands to do things that your thinking brain knows is bad for you, but not caring about consequences, not caring about outcomes, and thinking only about the feeling of that buzz and that removal of feelings of anxiety that you had before the booze or drug took over. So many times I've heard a new parent complain in the groups that I go to that their kid's addiction persisted simply because the kid didn't buckle down to the discipline of recovery, which statement is met with smiles among the rest of us. We smile because to a person we know from our experience that it isn't just discipline, it isn't just willpower, it isn't just buckling down that keeps our kids from not wanting that high. I say it takes more than wanna, but I don't really know what needs to be present. For as much as I've thought about it and researched it and lived through it myself, I still cannot identify that phenomenon that takes place, resulting in a sea change of mind and heart that causes one to turn the corner and begin on that journey that starts with that first clean day. All I know is that without that moment, no one can harness sufficient wanna to begin. Thank you.
Awesome, Joey. You read from your book.
Imagine that.
You read from your book. I'm so proud of you, Joey. So we've learned. So you're in process. The status of your book is you're working on it. You're editing the book. So tell me, what changes do you hope to see in the world, because this book will be out there, and it will be out there?
I would like parents not to be afraid of the notion of bringing an adult kid back into their house that wants to get clean. So much has been said about the fact that we've raised our kids, and when they're 18, they're out there on their own. But sometimes there needs to be another season at home, not just for the kid to have time and a safe space to recover, but for the parent to be able to look at the kid with different eyes, with a different mindset that can help, without thinking that you are the parent, the authority giver, the dispenser of rules. You know, my kid is my kid, but he's also become a friend. And from when he has emerged from addiction to now, he has re-become the kid that my wife and I were sure that we raised when we raised him. And that's a blessing. It is just incredibly strong for us.
So Joey, I thank you for showing up tonight and sharing your story. As you know, I believe 100% with every fiber of my being in the healing power of story. And that is what you have written. So I hope you take courage. I hope you read the comments when you get a chance, and let that bolster you forward to finish your wonderful, wonderful book. Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, AJ. And thank you for believing in me and believing in this book, because you've always been there throughout all of it. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
All right. Joey, everybody. Thank you so much for commenting. You guys are doing great on the feedback, by the way. Fantastic. Okay, Miss Laura Stone, who's up next?
That would be the fabulous and delightful Damon Yudichak. So Damon specializes in helping real estate agents simplify and master their finances so they can build their ideal business. Damon is a mastery certified Profit First professional, a certified public accountant, and the inventor of the Profit Scoreboard, which gives business owners one simple place to see the most important financial information about their business. On the brink of failure, Damon developed a system that turned his business and finances around. He is highly successful at helping his clients replicate the system in their own businesses. His mission is to simplify money for others so that it is easy to understand, manage, and multiply. Damon starts each day collecting some of life's small pleasures during a penny walk, and occasionally he finds one of Abe's copper coins. His favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, a great adventure with a simple message. Dorothy always had everything she needed to return home. And I'll share how to connect with Damon in the chat. Over to you.
Hey, Damon, are you excited?
Yep.
So Damon is one of the authors. We have another one in the house. Suzanne is here, who just had her book come out, who's written a derivative of Profit First. Now, you would think, well, this is going to be a lot about numbers and a lot about running a business, and it is. But what you don't know about Damon is that Damon surprised us all in workshop with what an incredible storyteller he is. He is a remarkable storyteller. In fact, he could practice at writing fiction for sure. So Damon, I'm so glad you're here. Tell us the title of your book.
The title of my book is Profit First for Real Estate Agents.
And obviously your readers, real estate agents, right?
Yes.
And what is your core message for them?
So the core message is to pay yourself first and spend less than you earn.
Love it. And what is your promise to your readers?
That if they do that, they can have an ideal business.
Very simple, right? And yet something that they really desperately need because they have a lot of volatility, right? A lot of up and down and uncertainty. And so set up the excerpt for us, Damon, of what you're going to read.
So this leads into the simplicity of business and starting off with the right foundation.
Okay, wonderful. It's you. Take it
All
away,
right.
Damon.
When I was in middle school, I played basketball almost every day with my best friend, Jeremy. As the ball bounced from the ground, I felt the bumps that covered its surface. I pushed it down with my right hand, and moments later, just like a yo-yo, it returned to my palm. I danced around Jeremy, grabbed the ball with both hands. I glanced at the orange rim. I was in the clear. I jumped, released, swoosh. I love that feeling. Jeremy and I continued our game of 21. I just scored 3 in a row. I was on a run. Can I outwit and outmaneuver? He blocked my next shot. He scored twice. We were tied up. It's do or die. Will I get the bragging rights? Jeremy reached in and stole the ball. He took a jump shot. The ball swirled around on the rim. Don't go in. But it did. I frowned. He won. I gave him a high five, and it was time to head home for dinner. Tomorrow, I'll wear the crown, I declared as I left. I'll believe it when I see it, he replied. Try as I might, I never mastered the skyhook. I would never be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Hall of Fame player, but I had fun. I thought I was good enough for my high school team. However, after just 1 week, my name wasn't on the list for the second round of tryouts. If only I had Kareem's 2 extra vertical feet. In his book, Coach Wooden and Me, Our 50-Year Friendship on and Off the Court, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar shares the experience of his first day of practice at UCLA. Coach John Wooden had just won his second straight NCAA championship. A mix of veteran and new players circled around Coach. A new adventure, how would it begin? Coach Wooden said, "Hello, gentlemen. Today, we're going to learn how to put on our basketball shoes." Put on our basketball shoes? You've got to be kidding me, thought Kareem. This wasn't Kareem's first day at the rodeo. He was a dominant high school All-American. He knew a thing or two about how to throw the orange ball through the hoop. He came to the City of Angels to learn from the great John Wooden's feet. He just didn't know it would be literal. Coach Wooden continued his instructions. If you do not pull your socks on tightly, you're likely to get wrinkles. Wrinkles cause blisters. Blisters force players to sit on the sideline. Players sitting on the sidelines lose games. We're not going to tug. We're also going to make it snug. Every year, Coach Wooden started the first practice of the season with the same lesson. His methods speak for themselves. He won 10 NCAA championships during his 12-year tenure as UCLA's head coach. The team's roster was full of the nation's best and brightest college players. It didn't matter to Wooden. They were on his court. He needed to reinforce the fundamentals. He knew he couldn't build a championship winning team without a solid foundation. Many of the clients I work with are super successful. They inspire me, yet they come to me because they are confused with their money. Money is one of the most complex, intimate topics I know of. When someone shares their challenges, they share the deepest part of their soul. It bothers me that people work so hard to achieve success and still they struggle with money. Why does it have to be so complicated? I used to think it wasn't rocket science. Maybe not for me. I spent a few decades working in finance. For most people, money is rocket science. It's a complex, tailed mess that bewilders them. It needs to be simpler so you can understand it. Let's follow Coach Wooden's example and build your championship business. Let's learn how to put on your business's socks so you aren't sidelined by those pesky wrinkles. You're in this game for the long haul. You don't have time to bother with those silly little blisters. Take the advice of Gary Keller, co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and focus on one thing. Sure, you help people find their dream home, and you build a team, and you solve problems. You can list plenty of reasons why you love your profession. While those are nice, you must never forget the primary reason you own a business. You're in business to make money. You've made tremendous investments of time, energy, resources, and money. What a waste it would be if you didn't earn a fabulous return on your investment. You deserve to be paid lots of money for your investments. Money is at the core of everything you do, from the moment you pick up your phone to lead generate to the moment you smile proudly as your client signs the closing documents. If money is not important to you, then you should not be in business. The demands of business are too great for someone who isn't in this for the greenbacks. If you don't focus on making money, you're better off with a job to pay your bills. Become a master of money if you want to be successful. Otherwise, you'll suffer needlessly. Pause for a moment. Breathe in once, breathe in out once, breathe in another time, and then out another time. Now say these words aloud with as much conviction as you can muster. I am in business to make money. Remember how Coach Wooden started the first practice of the season by teaching all his players to put on their shoes and socks? Even though they were the best and the brightest in the country, yet he took that valuable time to start where the rubber of the soles met the wooden floor. Mastering the fundamentals was of utmost importance to him. We will take the same approach with your business. You're already successful, yet if you're struggling with money, chances are you need to get back to the basics of money. We'll start with the fundamentals. Now that you're focused on your primary objective, I'll guide you to master your money. The path to mastery follows a natural progression. You must develop disciplines, learn skills, try something new, and fail a few times. You'll be horrible at first, then you'll be bad. Next, you'll be adequate until you progress to good, great, and then excellent. There's no shortcut to mastery. Each morning, I go for a walk. Some days I see at least one copper coin on the ground. Abraham Lincoln's head is emblazoned on it. I bend over and claim ownership of my newfound wealth. I place them in an old glass Mount Olive pickle jar. The green screw on top has a slit in it. Clank, clank. My heart jumps at every time I hear that music. I respect money and have a special place for all my precious coins. Some people have so little awareness about their money that they let it slip through their hands and drive over it with their cars. You might think it's only a penny, Damon. No, you're wrong. It's a principle. Small indiscretions of waste indicate larger waste. One morning, I found 5 pennies. Jackpot, I proclaimed. 5 pennies on my walk, I made a profit. Profit is so simple. More money at the end than at the beginning. Without profit, you do not have a business. You have an expensive hobby. Imagine you're in a car and there's trees next to the sidewalk. A young girl on the side of the road has a lemonade stand. Your mouth waters as you approach her. You look at your car's dashboard, 92 degrees. You walk over to quench your thirst. It's only been 30 seconds. A bead of sweat dribbles down your forehead into your right eye. Hello, my name is Nora. Would you like a cup of lemonade? It's only 50 cents. Actually, I'd like 2 cups. You smile, reach into your pocket, and hand over a crisp $1 bill. Nora has blue eyes, brown hair that's cut into a bob. Her hair stops just at her jawline. At the top of the stand is a sign with handwritten letters, lemonade 50 cents. The magic elixir is a concoction of lemon juice, water, and sugar. Each cup has a price, just 2 quarters, a fair exchange of money for a product. She spent less than 5 cents on the ingredients. 5 cents income, 50 cents income minus 5 cents equals 45 cents of profit. Presto, earnings greater than expenses equals profit. It's hard to mess up in business when you simplify it to its core. Nora captured the simplicity of business that we adults often overcomplicate. We tangle up into a mess so much that we don't know if we have a cat or a ball of yarn. Think about your simplicity. You sell a home. You get paid a percentage commission of the house sale. What a simple way to price your services. You don't have to worry about billable hours. When your client signs a listing contract, they know exactly what they pay you when the house sells. You know how much you will make. Everything is clear. Profit is the primary goal of business. Don't lose sight of that.
Good job, Damon. How was that for you to read?
It was great.
Oh, good. You read from your book.
I did.
That's amazing. So tell us about the status of your book. It's coming out this year, sometime this year.
So I'm almost done with editing. And then AJ will make some few more comments, I'm sure. And then it goes on to copy editing and proofing. So hopefully that'll be done at the end of July.
So your book will likely be out this fall.
Yes.
Okay, great. And Laura, you'll put something in the chat about how people can order it. So tell me, what changes do you hope to see in the world because of your book? For your reader.
Well, there's a lot of noise. And so I want to get rid of the noise. And there's this word behind me, simplify. That's a big goal. It needs to be simpler. And if it's simpler, people will they won't be confused, and they'll be able to make better decisions with their money.
And tell me something that was surprising about your author journey.
I think that word simplify, that really going through that process. And I mean, the constant question I had is, what can I do to make this easier? What can I do to make this simpler? It's a struggle to try and get it down, boil it down to what it needs to be. And I think for me, it was coming to that mission that I talk about, is to make money as simple as possible for people.
I love that. A lot of editing is that simplifying, tightening, removing, making things more clear. You've done a great job. I'm so proud of you, Damon. I'm excited for you to have your book come out this year. And thank you so much for reading tonight.
Thank you.
And check the chat.
I will.
So Laura Stone, last but certainly not least.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a certain rock star named Jeffrey Shaw that's going on?
Yeah.
So if you allow me to introduce those of you who may not know the wonderful Jeffrey Shaw. So how many people can say they've never worked for anyone else? Selling eggs door to door at 14 years old began a lifetime of self-employment. As a speaker and a small business consultant, Jeffrey Shaw helps self-employed and small business owners gain control of their business in what seems like otherwise uncontrollable circumstances. Drawing on his experience as a renowned portrait photographer, Jeffrey shows business owners how to see business through a different lens and strategies to compose the often chaotic pieces of life and business into sustainable success. Jeffrey's TEDx Lincoln Square Talk is featured on TED.com, and he's the host of the top-rated podcast, The Self-Employed Life. The author of Lingo, Discover Your Ideal Customer's Secret Language and Make Your Business Irresistible, and the forthcoming book, The Self-Employed Life, already out. The Self-Employed Life, Business and Personal Development Strategies that Create Sustainable Success. And I will certainly throw ways that you can connect and get your own copy of his book in the chat. Take it away.
Yes, Jeffrey's book is out, just so we're clear. It is not forthcoming. There. Oh, look, Deanna's holding it up. Woo!
Thank you.
So I also just need to tack on that Jeffrey's, I met Jeffrey at the Perennial Bestseller Retreat with Michael Port and Mike Michalowicz, and was privileged to help Jeffrey with Lingo as an editor and see him through that process. But I also want to point out that, as so often happens to me, because I care so much about all my authors, we became dear friends, very close friends. And so I'm so honored that Jeffrey accepted my invitation. Jeffrey is also an alum of the Developmental Editing Retreat. where he worked on the self-employed life. And so Jeffrey, tell us, who is your reader? I'm so excited about who your reader is because it's me, but go ahead.
So I actually see three audiences. So I wrote the book for existing self-employed business owners. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So then I realized I also wanted to make sure I included all those folks, millions that were losing their jobs and might choose self-employment as a way forward. And then once the book was out, I then started thinking a lot about people who are so-called fortunate enough to still have their jobs, but aren't living the life of their dreams. So I look at it as three audiences, but all with a desire to be self-employed.
And what is your core message for that reader?
The core message is that even in completely uncontrollable circumstances in business, that you can gain control of your business by creating the environment you want to get the results that you want.
And one thing that I just want to share this because I know the book really well is the thing that I love so much about this book is that it's a complete map through this ecosystem that you talk about, the self-employed ecosystem. And I think that's, no one's ever connected all those dots before. What is your promise to readers if they make use of that ecosystem?
Yeah. The promise is that they can, in fact, live a life of greater harmony between their personal life and their business life, that they can get some resemblance of control in an uncontrollable world by using the self-employed ecosystem to set up the environment for the results they want. Because it otherwise feels like, as I hear all the time, people feel like they're all over the place, they're not getting the results they want. So my promise is that if you follow this system and if you understand the integration of the self-employed ecosystem, that you can actually take far more control of the outcome of your life and business than you might otherwise expect.
I love that. And just so everybody's clear, this book is actually really to me, it's a reference guide to be used for almost every component of business. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not a big fan of people trying to write all the things in one book. This just fits like a glove. It just fits like a glove. So set up the excerpt for us, Jeffrey.
So the excerpt is by far the hardest chapter I had I had to write. There was an intuitive knowing that this lesson had to be included in the book, but I kept trying to retrofit it in different ways. And it wasn't until I really dropped into that inner place that we go to as authors that the clarity as to where this fit in. So I'll just leave it at that because I think the story will tell itself, hopefully.
All right, take it away, Jeffrey.
All right. And my story does not include the word elixir. The two previous did. I'm backing out. I called my co-writer for the TEDx event I was speaking at in just a month to tell her I couldn't do it. So much had gone wrong in a short period of time. Business, personal, you name it. Do you know that feeling when you just can't go on? In this case, I felt I literally couldn't go on stage. I was tired of pushing through as a professional, drained from always doing what was expected of me. Besides, I thought it would be inauthentic of me to give that TEDx talk when my life wasn't all hunky-dory. The real truth was, I was about to deny myself a long-held dream because of what seemed like uncontrollable circumstances. The irony was, my TEDx talk was about expectations and how they keep us in a closet based on our limited views of ourselves. The only way out of the closet is to allow others to see more in us than we see in ourselves. How could I do that if I was hiding what was really going on for me? I was pretending everything was fine, when on the inside, it wasn't. Fake it till you make it may have worked when I was in my 20s, but at this stage of midlife, it's all about truth and authenticity. I was reminded of how often as self-employed business owners, we push ourselves through sickness to fulfill an obligation or get the money we need to pay our bills. or how often we brush aside our personal problems to come through for someone else. How often we suffer in silence, thinking we're the only ones going through something. We never are. I was facing a dilemma. Should I be true to my word or true to myself? And at this moment in February 2018, I decided to be true to myself. When I expressed my conflict to the co-writer and editor of my book, Lingo, Anjanette A.J. Harper, she was not having it. You all know that feeling. We worked for this for years, AJ said. 2 years of filling out TEDx applications and 12 prior rejections, to be exact. I know, AJ, but I just can't do it, I said. I can't give a talk about expectations without feeling like I'm lying. So much unexpected has happened that I don't feel like I'm being authentic. I also knew that if you attempt to be anything less than authentic on stage, especially the TEDx stage, the audience will eat you alive. This was Monday, so AJ requested that I give it until Thursday before I notified the organizers. Thursday came and AJ called to see how I was feeling. It was still a no for me. She begged that I give it the weekend to decide. I agreed. One obligation I had that evening was to take my client Cece out to dinner. She had flown into Miami to work together one-to-one. Honor your obligations, right? I took Cece to one of my favorite spots and hottest neighborhoods. Wynwood is the art district of Miami, full of galleries and cafes and internationally known for street art. We walked into one of the most well-known galleries in town, owned by and featuring the artwork of one of the world's preeminent pop artists, New York City-based Peter Tooney. And there it was on the wall, a very large, spectacularly beautiful painting in the mixed media collage for which Peter is known, saying, "Expectations are the blueprint for disappointment." Are you freaking kidding me? I think I looked around to see if I was on candid camera or if this was some weird social media experiment. I was supposed to be giving a TEDx talk about expectations, which was turning out to be nothing like I expected. And here was this enormous painting staring me in the face with this uncannily relevant message. I stepped up to the painting for a closer look. At $150,000, that incredible piece of art wouldn't be coming home with me. But I decided to ask the person behind the counter if there was a less expensive print available. It was a different guy than I'm used to seeing at the gallery, and I'm there pretty frequently. "Excuse me, is there a print of this piece?" I asked, pointing to the wall on my right. As he stepped from behind the counter, I noticed his jeans were covered in paint. I looked up from his pant legs and asked in a shocked tone, "Are you Peter Tooney?" "Yes, I am." "But you're never here. So glad to meet you," I said with an outstretched hand. He reciprocated the handshake and brought me over to the print case. He slipped the print from the plastic covering. I glanced at the price. I hadn't intended to spend $3,000 on my way to dinner, but felt I didn't really have a choice at this point. I mean, I was standing there with the artist. How could I back out now? I explained to him the significance of the words he had created and all about my TEDx talk. He listened intently, then slipped a pencil from behind his ear, asked my name, and signed the print. Well, it's mine now, I thought. He handed the print to me and said, "Here, my gift to you." Stammering, I said, you can't do that. I mean, it's super generous and all, but you can't, I can't. "The hell I can't," he shot back. "It's my business and I can do whatever I want." Then he leaned in. "You know," he said, "you think I'm giving you a gift. I'm here because I've had a shitty day. And your story about what this means to you and your TEDx talk is exactly why I create art. You think I'm giving you a gift, but the truth is, you're a gift to me tonight." With that, I ended up with the most beautiful piece of art, hand-signed with a personal message from the artist that now hangs in my living room. It was a moment I will remember for the rest of my life. We exchanged handshakes and business cards, and Cece and I went off to dinner. Of course, I did that TEDx talk, which much to my shock was later added to the main TED.com website. Can you imagine if I had backed out? If I had allowed what seemed like uncontrollable circumstances, the craziness of life, the realities of being self-employed to control my decisions and my life? Looking back, I can't believe how dangerously close I came to giving up on a dream. Years of hard work and all the opportunities that have since come along from that TEDx event, as well as the people I've met and meaningful relationships that have been formed. I don't mind being vulnerable, and I always strive to be authentic. That said, sharing this story makes me uncomfortable. I should have known better. After decades in business and considering myself so highly trained as a coach, how could I have come so close to giving up so much? That's how powerful the uncontrollable circumstances around us can feel when we're in business for ourselves. It's inevitable that what affects us personally is going to affect us in business and vice versa. The self-employed life has its challenges, but I'll bet you wouldn't have it any other way. You know you have a lot to offer, and you do want control of your destiny. No matter what, don't give up on your dream.
I mean, come on.
Here's the painting.
Yes. Woo! Yes, we wanted to see it. I'm so glad you had that ready. That is so gorgeous.
I've talked about it so much, and I've never actually shown it to anybody. So I was kind of excited to be able to share it.
So, Jeffrey, you know, I love that you mentioned before you started the reading that you knew the story had to go in, but it wasn't clear at first or even after a couple drafts exactly how it was going to go. And I remember talking it through with you. And I'm so grateful that you nailed that, because it is my favorite story in that book. And and you told it beautifully tonight. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to fit it, you know, and I just want to offer that as well. I was trying to fit a story and try to pull all these business lessons out of it. And it didn't make sense until I really just dropped inward. And so what did I learn from that moment? And at the end of the day, it was exactly what needed to be said. It's like, guess what? With all my training, I still face the same challenge of uncontrollable circumstances. So it ended up fitting.
Yeah, and it's so relatable, because as authors, especially when you're writing these type of books, we have a tendency to feel that we need to appear like we have it all together. And it's you talk about a gift, it's a gift to your reader to show that you can fall down, you can disappoint yourself, you can have doubt, you can go down the wrong road, and also a gift to see how the universe picks you back up. So what a magical story. So what changes, Jeffrey, do you hope to see in the world because this book is now in it?
Oh gosh, you know, self-employed business owners rule. I mean, that is what I want to see is a world run by self-employed businesses, and even more importantly, a world where people are crafting their life, you know, and using self-employment to design the life of their dreams. I mean, the word life is in that title for a very big reason. It's not a how to be self-employed. It is the self-employed life. And that's what means more to me than anything, even more so since the book has been out, is to really empower people to create the life that makes them happy, because this is fleeting. It doesn't last forever.
Yes. And I'm glad that you mentioned that the book is out. Have you been hearing from readers, and has anything been, stood out for you that you would want to share? You know, I'm a glutton for this. I want to hear all about the readers.
Oh my God. It's been so moving. I mean, you know, I ended the book with the exercise we did in the developmental editing exercise. So I end the book with one of AJ's exercises to write the worst possible review. And I had so much fun doing that exercise. I ended up ending the book with it. And you know what? It's a fantastic exercise. And that doesn't mean you don't still live with that fear that I was going to get that criticism. And it has been nothing but it's hit the mark. It has done exactly what we set out for it to do. It has been a book that people are referring to as a resource, that they're going to go back to it over and over again. People have commented, it's like, holy crap, everything I need is in this one book. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Right. So the feedback so far has been exactly what you would want it to be, with no interruption to that. You talk about expectations, you just can't even expect that. So it's been really positive. It's selling well. We're at 55 reviews. So it has actually surpassed my expectations.
So I want to put a little plug for Jeffrey, because if you haven't picked up the book, I hope that you will get it for yourself or a friend. And I also hope that if you have picked up the book, that you will please take even just a minute or two to leave an honest review for Jeffrey. It's really, Amazon reviews are hard to get, and you need every stinking one of them. So if you can just, even if you're just, watching, or like Jeffrey and I do at 10 o'clock, if you're just watching the Golden Girls, just go on while you're listening to the Golden Girls and put up your review. It will mean a lot to him. And do that for any author that you love. Any author that you love, just take the time to do that. It all really helps. I want to close by just, of course, thank you to all three of the authors who joined us tonight and shared their precious time. The Monday night readings are really special because, again, nonfiction authors tell great stories. Let's read them aloud. Let's have that experience. Let's get that feedback that you deserve. But I also really am going to put Jeffrey on the spot just a little bit. Jeffrey wrote 2 books that were on his heart. He didn't do what maybe other people advised him to do. He wrote the books that were on his heart in the way that he wanted to write them. And when he came to me for Lingo, which is another great book, by the way, high recommend on that, he came to me because he had been told that he couldn't put certain chapters in the book, that didn't belong in that book, but he just wanted them in there, and he knew it was important for his reader. And they're in there. They're in there today, and they work beautifully. And he was told to write another book that would make sense as an extension of Lingo, but he wanted this book. He wanted this book in the world. And so I just want to highlight that and share that, Damon and Joey are taking courageous choices. Jeffrey took courageous choices. And I hope that everybody here will also follow their lead, because you need to write the book that's on your heart, that makes sense to you. Yes, there's good advice out there. You can get good advice from many people. It doesn't mean you have to listen to me. It doesn't mean you have to listen to any of the other wonderful, talented folks in this publishing industry. You have to listen to your heart at the end of the day. And so since Jeffrey's in the house, I had to say that. And it's paid off for Jeffrey, for sure.
Yeah, well, I've said this before. My whole world around literacy and books has changed because of you. I just see books, value authors and writers. I've said repeatedly, my greatest thrill was walking down the street a couple blocks to leave both of my books now in the free little library box outside of a building. Like, and to be that kind of author where you want nothing more than to put a book in a free library for somebody to take for free. That's on you, AJ. You have turned me into, I've always read 2 books a week, but you've turned me into a lover of literacy, not just reading.
Yes, because this is where we care about craft and authorship. We're in it for the long haul here, everybody. Thank you for showing up for each other. Again, we will not be having Monday night in July and August. We'll see you in September. I'm grateful to all of you wonderful authors. Have a beautiful evening.